Oh, we're on. We're live. Well, hello everyone. This is Miss Bird with Dreams Empowerment Network, and I am so happy to have whole Miranda Burton of Marion House as our last guest for the month of March. And as you know,
Yeah.
women, the Women Empower web series will be posted, are posted on the Dream Network profit page, not page, what it's called, Facebook. So, make sure you go and listen to all the wonderful women we had for the month of March, celebrating um, their gifts and talents and telling their story and how, they once were just like you. Didn't know which way to go, undecided things that happened in their lives, and yet they still found their purpose. And so I welcome each and every one of my viewers part of the journey. So thank you, Marion, and welcome.
I am glad to be here.
So I got a little echo when I'm talking. I'm not sure why. You hear me okay? Is it
Yes.
echoing your end?
No, it's not echoing on my end.
Hmm. Okay, let me see. Let me do something real quick. I think I know what it may be. All right, all right, all right.
Okay.
All right. So let's get this party started, baby. All right. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us your story and how your life gave birth to Marion's house.
Okay. Well, let's see. Marion's house is named after my grandmother, which her name is Miranda Burton. And she constantly took people into her home, whether it was elderly, young people, children, homeless, people with drug addiction, all different types of things. She was constantly taking people into her home. It kind of became a family joke of, oh Lord, who Marion got in her house now? Because she was always taking somebody in. So I thought it was important that I named the organization Marion's House. And what Marion's House focuses on is child sexual abuse, empowerment, awareness, and recovery. I am a two-time survivor of child sexual abuse. At the age of 3, I was sexually abused by my uncle-in-law. I was dropped off over there. He was supposed to be babysitting all the children, and he decided to use me like I was his, sexual toy. And from that, there was a period of time where I went through forensic interview. And in the end, he pled guilty and received a lesser sentence, though, for pleading guilty. So he was still able to kind of function and be around and was not gone away. Around the age of 6, I was then sexually assaulted again. And this time it was for a period of almost 2 years by my mother's girlfriend at the time. So she was living with us and she began to sexually abuse me. And like I said, that went on for almost 2 years. So when that happened, because of the way I felt that things happened with my uncle-in-law and that he was not removed from the family and was not away from us, I felt that there was no point in telling when it came to the female perpetrator because I just assumed that, well, nothing's going to happen to her. And at the time, my mom was in an abusive relationship. So I felt like she was going through a lot and she was dealing with domestic violence and I was watching that. So to add anything else to that, I didn't really think there was a solution. So I kind of kept it in. And it wasn't until I was in college. And in the midst of college, I went through a lot of things emotionally. My grades started to slip. I went through depression. I had a lot of different emotions that I went through early on in college. And during that time, I received a phone call from my female perpetrator, just calling to check on me, say, oh, you're in college, just want to check on you, see how you're doing. And she acted as if nothing had ever happened when I was a child. So I hadn't seen her. It had probably been about 10 years. Maybe it might have been a little less than 10 years, somewhere around there since I had seen her. But I just felt like she should remember and know that I remembered. I'm like, that's, you know, that went on for such a length of time. So after getting off the phone with her, I was pretty upset. My roommate in the dorms actually was there to kind of support me. And it was a pretty emotional thing for me because I felt violated again by her calling me and for her to act so normal as if nothing had happened. So I dealt with that. I was dealing with that for a while. And it actually wasn't until I was graduating from college and I was on the phone with my mom and my aunt one day, and we were just talking about random stuff. And we started talking about child sexual abuse and like how prevalent it had been in our family. And in the midst of that, that's when I disclosed that I had been sexually abused by the female. And so, of course, my mom immediately was like, I need to come down. So she drove down to the city where my college was. We went to dinner and she said, we need to press charges. We need to do something. And I was like, it's been so many years. Like it started when I was 6 years old. At this point, I'm in my 20s. I said, I have no need to do anything like that. And so, but I knew that for me, I needed to work with kids. That was something that I always desired to do. I started college as a biology major, but in the midst of all of that, I always wanted to work with kids. So I thought I wanted to be an obstetrician and deliver babies. But then I realized that didn't really give me an impact. I would mostly be working with the women more so than the kids and protecting them. And from all of that, I changed my major to psychology. And my senior project, I did it on child sexual abuse, so adult survivors and their level of trust as an adult. So I went around and did surveys and surveyed college students, people in the community near the college. And it was a direct correlation between adult survivors of child sexual abuse and them having trust issues. And so I was like, okay, so that's what I thought. Because I knew for me personally, I'd always had trust when it came to friends, relationships. It's like I was not trusting at all. And so that's why I did that, to see if there were other people out there that were like me. So just to kind of speed up, after college, I started off teaching. But I still wanted, like, it was always a longing to start a nonprofit or do something that was going to impact children and to help kids so they were protected from child sexual abuse, because I didn't want anybody to experience what I had experienced. So I talked about it, relationship after relationship. I always kind of brought it up with people I was dating. I was like, this is something I really want to do, but I never really pushed to do it. And it was actually in 2011, I was talking about it. And one of my friends said, you know, if this is something you want to do, just do it. And so I was like, it's not that simple. I don't know what to do. I don't know who to contact. I don't know really where to start. And she said, just do some research. Just look up and see like what the steps are and what it takes. And she said, and while you're doing all that, you know, what do you want to name it? And I said, I don't know what I want to name it. And then that's when we got off the phone and I started thinking about it. And then Marion's House just clicked. It was the only thing that made sense. It was like, well, duh, Marion's House. And my grandmother passed away in 2009. So I wanted to make sure, 2008. So I wanted to make sure that her legacy lived on, because she was impactful in the community in Louisiana. And so from that, I started doing a little bit of research. The first thing I did, I remember sending a message to all of my friends. I said, my birthday is August 1st. Instead of anybody buying me a gift or us having a party, I don't want to do any of that. I would like to become a certified facilitator in darkness to light so that I can train adults on how to protect children. I said, just for my birthday, donate to the money that I need in order to pay for that. And so that I can start off with a bunch of workbooks to begin training people. And I was surprised at how many people were so responsible. I'm like, oh, this is what you want to do? We got you. And so my friends, they sent me money. I went to the training, and that was kind of like the birthday gift to myself. And from that was August of 2012. From that moment on, I've been doing darkness to light training sessions. Marion's House has now became an official 501c3 in February of 2016, which was last year. We registered with the Secretary of State in December of 2015. So it's like everything has just fallen into line. We've had a lot of support, a lot of community support. And as I share my story, as well as training people in darkness to light in those sessions, through all of this, I feel like it's a continuing healing process for me. It keeps me empowered. It keeps me motivated. And even on days when I may be tired or exhausted, there's always some work or something to do for Marion's House. So I appreciate that, because I know that's exactly what I should be doing right now.
Absolutely. The process of healing does help when you share your story. The more you share your story, the more you can begin to heal. And so, like I said, keep sharing your story, because it's also healing you and helping someone else as well.
Okay.
So at the time that you was going through all of this in school, and your girlfriend asked you, why not just do it? Was there a time that you thought maybe that you couldn't, or what was the downfalls, or if there were any downfalls of getting Marion?
The first downfall was fear. I was really afraid that I wouldn't be able to do it. And then I was starting an organization, but at that point I had not publicly shared my story. So I was wanting to do this work, but a lot of people didn't know that I was actually a survivor of child sexual abuse. They just knew that this cause was important to me. So I knew I had to get to a place of a comfort level to share my story, and then also getting the knowledge and things I needed in order to register and be like a legit organization that could help the community. So it was taking time to do research, connecting with the right people. I met with 2 lawyers, actually. I met with one lawyer that gave me some information and told me what I needed to do. And then the lawyer that actually helped me to finalize and actually get everything registered, he was with me like step by step with everything. And I really appreciate that. And probably the biggest hurdle was money, like having funding in order to be able to pay for all this stuff. Because to be a nonprofit, you would think that it would be free, but you have to pay to become a nonprofit. And that's the whole point. You don't have any money to begin with.
Yeah.
So money, fear, those were probably the 2 biggest things that were my hindrances, and why it should not have taken me from 2012 to 2016 to become official. But it was a sense of fear. But then I think that who I am in 2016, who I was in 2016 compared to who I was in 2012, I wasn't ready to be an executive director of an organization. I still had some mental growing to do, some maturing to do. And through this work, I'm now at a place where I know kind of how to be a leader. And back then I knew how to be a boss, and being bossy is not necessarily what's needed, but now I know how to be a leader and how to empower and help other people.
That's great, great, good. So how was your mother helpful in helping you, heal the process?
You said how was who? My mother has been here from the beginning, really. And once I told her about the female, she was because she felt like, I welcomed this woman into my home, and she's my biggest supporter, like beyond a shadow of a doubt. I mean, she actually just went to an event recently, and LaPortia Renee from American Idol was there, and she had an opportunity to talk to her. While she's talking to LaPortia, she's handing her my brochure and talking about Marion's House. Like, my mom is my biggest advocate, and she appreciates the cause too, because she's a survivor of child sexual abuse. So she understands what I'm doing, the importance of it being spread throughout communities, churches, and everywhere. So she's constantly kind of helping to motivate and empower me. So I appreciate that.
So with Mirandas House, are you directly interacting with the kids? Do they come to you, or you go to them? How does
Well, Marion's House doesn't have a physical building, because once again, money is our hindrance in that case. But we do a lot of community work. So it's me going to them, and maybe it's me going to a community center or a youth servicing organization, or even house calls. I actually just yesterday did a book reading with a family. I went into the home and did a Marion's House workshop, and I sat down with two young girls and the father, and I did the book reading. And then we talked about putting up a red flag and knowing how to say no and how to tell, discussing what an trusted adult was, the difference between a bribe versus a threat, and why it's okay that if you are being sexually abused, to tell, and that it's not your fault. So, and I just did that on yesterday. And then I'm constantly trying to work with children as well as training adults. So it's either empowering children, spreading awareness with adults and children, then also doing the darkness to light training sessions with adults.
what is the biggest what's the stopping the kids for telling? What is the biggest fear for them telling someone that this is happening to them?
Well, one, I think it's a sense of they don't want to mess up their home. I remember I went to a high school recently and was spreading awareness and was talking to kids that were coming over. And one of the high school girls said, well, people aren't going to tell if something happens to them because they don't want to end up in foster care. They don't want to end up with, having to leave their home. So to tell, that means, they get moved out of their home. So it's like the child's being punished. And that's the only thing they can see. And that's why I think it's important that as parents or trusted adults are finding out, the first thing you do as you tell a child is you immediately, praise them and thank them for being brave enough to even come to you and feeling that you are a trusted person to disclose this information to, because they are afraid. They don't want to mess up anything. I mean, there have been cases where because one child is being sexually abused, all of the siblings in the home have to be removed. And that is a sense of fear. And that's something that they don't want to break up their home. Or you have, the issues where maybe it's the father abusing the kids and the mother is aware of it, but she can't afford to provide for those kids on her own. So she's choosing to sweep it under the rug to kind of keep her home what she feels is stable when really it's not mentally stable.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What part of you, or if there was a part of you, really wish that you would have told earlier about the female?
Honestly, I know that I should have told sooner, but I think based on my situation, I should have told sooner for the sake of, because I don't know, like that was something that bothered me. I constantly worried about whether she sexually abused someone else. And she's actually deceased now, but she had 2 daughters and I constantly worried about them and whether she was doing the same thing to them. And once she left from my home, I never saw her again, like in that period, like it was, a decade before I saw her again. So at that point, her kids were a little bit older than me. And I actually, the first time I saw her since she had left our home was at a funeral. And she's coming over there and she's so happy to see me. And she gives me a hug and she wants me to meet her daughters. And she's telling them, yeah, y'all are my daughters, but this was my first daughter right here. She always said, like she treated me like her own child. And so for me, for a long time, I struggled with that because this was a perception of love that I thought I was receiving. And 90% of cases of child sexual abuse is going to be someone that you know and trust. Mm-hmm. And so because I was old enough, this woman, she did my hair, she kept me in nice, like she was constantly doing things to keep me beautiful. But what she was doing was grooming me. And what grooming is a process that pedophiles use in order to weaken the mentality of a child so they feel like they can't say no. And there was one time there was one distinct time that sticks out in my brain that I did try to say no and that I didn't want to do it. And she became really angry and tried to tell me that, here I am, a 7-year-old child, that this is what I wanted. So, it was a very difficult thing to be dealing with at such a young age. And I tried to tell the school. And in my first attempt in talking to the school, because I talked a lot, because I was all over the place, because I was a victim of trauma at this point, they kind of brushed it off. They just thought I was just like, they didn't really understand. And I remember also telling one of my childhood friends, she and I, we were in first grade together. And I remember telling her that, the person that's in my home is like, I don't like what she's doing. It makes me feel uncomfortable. Like it feels like, and I remember my friend being like, oh, she's just being like a mom. Like she's being affectionate. Like, and we're like in first grade. And I don't know if the word affection was what they used, but I remember them telling me like, you're being weird. You're weird. Like what's wrong with you? And so then once again, it was kind of brushed under the rug. And then I can remember being a teenager and spending the night with one of my friends, and we were having like a really in-depth like teen talk. And I decided at that time that I was gonna tell them about that part of my life. And they like shut down, like scared, like, why are you telling me this right now? Like, I can't help you. What do you want me to do? And I remember being like, why am I telling this child this? I don't know. And so after that, I just kind of was like, you know what? I just need to stop doing this. But like I said, because I told when it was the male, and I felt like he didn't go away, I didn't want to tell when it was the female because I felt like it was my fault. Like I felt like I wasn't supposed to tell. Like maybe that was what she was. I was confused about whether that was supposed to be okay or not.
Yeah. Can you give some viewers some information on what to look for? What signs to look for a child that's being sexually assaulted.
Well, I tell people all the time when they always immediately go to physical signs. They're looking for bruising. They're looking for all these things in the genital areas and, any of the private parts. But that's not necessarily where you're going to see the results of child sexual abuse. The child may have no physical signs, and it may be just emotional. If you have a child that is always happy-go-lucky, having a good time, having a great day, and then all of a sudden you see that maybe now they're more reserved. Now they're having anxiety issues, or they're being withdrawn, and you notice that they're doing something that's out of the ordinary. They seem more depressed, or so starting that conversation with them and being comfortable enough to start that conversation to say, hey, what's going on? This is an activity that you love to do, and now you don't want to do it anymore. Or you love going to your aunt and uncle's house. Why don't you want to go anymore? You always love going over there. So that kind of thing. So being able to recognize. So number one, as a parent or as a trusted adult, being observant. That's number one. Noticing the change in behavior, because that's going to be the biggest thing that you see. If it comes to a child, maybe they're overly developed as it relates to their knowledge. A 5-year-old child, and they're displaying sexual behaviors beyond what just, wanting to touch their body to see what it is, then that may be an issue. So that's something to look at. Or if you see a child kind of mirroring what they're experiencing and they're trying to do the same thing to another child. So those are all kind of some things to kind of look out for.
Yeah. Ooh. Heavy. Wow. So turning this experience into Miranda's House, have you decided to make this as a book as well?
You said, I didn't hear the last part.
You decided to make your experience as a book?
You said book? Yes. I actually did. I wrote a children's book, and I need to publish it, and that's something I'm working on. I've had the illustrator do the pictures. I've written out the whole storyline. I just really need to get it published. So that's one of the things that I'm working on as well. And I didn't want to, I'm doing it like I'll use it as a resource with Marion's House, but that was going to be something separate, just that I wanted to do for myself, where I talk about the story of a young girl who's being sexually abused by a female, because that's not something you're going to always see in the book. People tend to think that females are not perpetrators, and there is no set correlation between more males versus females sexually abusing children. And that's actually why Marion's House has a PSA video that we are releasing on tomorrow as a segue into April, which is Child Sexual Abuse Prevention Month. And I made sure one of the things that I wanted was for, in our first PSA, it to be a female. So I hope I don't get backlash for using a female, but because, people are going to feel a certain type of way. But I chose a female because of my personal experience. Like the most traumatic part of the sexual abuse that I can remember was with the female. The 3-year-old experience, halfway through it, I blacked out. So I don't remember all of the details, but I can remember vividly what happened with the female. So that's why that stands out a little more to me. And I wanted the first PSA to make sure to have a female perpetrator for that reason.
Wow. A lot going on there.
Yeah.
So you said the book will be published, or is at the
well, I have the illustrations have already been done, and at this point it's just a matter of me getting enough money to go ahead and get it published. So once I save up enough money or get enough people that want to kind of support it or pre-order, then I'll be able to go ahead and get that published.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. Well, make sure you post it and share the link or whatever you want to do to the money. It's definitely needed. Speaking of molested, My perpetrator was a female as well. My daughter perpetrator was a female as well.
Oh,
So I can
yeah.
never think that it would be a female for whatever reason. I don't know. We don't think a female will do something to another female.
Yeah.
I have no idea why that's in our mind when we think molestation. We think of the male,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
right? Um,
Because I tell people all the time, it's not about a sexual preference. A pedophile is looking, it's more of a control thing. So they're not even looking at whether if it's a female abusing a female child versus a male child. Like, they don't look at that. They're strictly focused on the control.
Absolutely, yep, yeah. And you know, we got to recondition our minds when it comes to that,
Yeah.
for sure, because that's sure way we miss the signs of what's going on with our children.
Yeah.
You know, when they're around certain people, how they act, how they react, around you know that person.
Mm-hmm.
So, but definitely. So, anything you want to share with the audience?
I do want to provide the information if anyone would like to support or donate to the organization. You can go to look up Marion's House #1 on Facebook so that you can follow our page and know kind of a lot of the things we have going on in the community. And we have a few fundraiser events that are going on in the state of South Carolina in the Charleston area. Jump into Action, that's on April 25th. We also have a Spring into Action event that is going on next Thursday, April 6th, downtown. We're doing our Darkness to Light training on the 21st of April. So we got a lot of things that are going on in the community that we would like support. If a person would like to donate, they can donate to our GoFundMe page. That's one method. The link would be gofundme.com/6, J as in Jack, X as in xylophone, E as in Edward, the number 84. They can also donate through PayPal and request an invoice to Marion's House Survivors at gmail.com. Or if they would like to send a check, they can send that to 210 Mayfield Drive in Goose Creek, South Carolina, and it's 2445. So there's multiple ways that they can support the organization, as well as continuing to support the page and sharing the things that we have going on. So sharing our posts and sharing the PSA for sure, you know, like getting the word out there so that people know that this doesn't have to be taboo anymore. In the time that I have been training people and doing the workshops and things for Marion's House, I've seen an improvement. I can say on a statistical level, whereas before it was 1 in 4 girls were being sexually abused. Now the statistics are 1 in 10 kids, and that's a huge change. Yeah. And that so we're able to see that there is impact in us spreading and trying to reduce the incidence of child sexual abuse.
Well, I would like to say keep up the good work. Keep healing, keep sharing your story, and thank you so much for spending the time with us and changing our perspective on what to look for and what to not put, I guess, in the corner as this could never happen, because as we all know, it could happen. It can happen.
Yeah.
And it's there is no, like you said, there's no written rules of what a perpetrator looks for.
And
so
another thing I would like to say, just for any survivors that are watching this or people that feel like they're still in the victimizing state, to know that you don't have to go through this alone. Reach out to Marion's House. We're available for support. We mentor children. You know, I'm willing to, I've been working with adults, and that wasn't even initially the mission of Marion's House, but I've been able to empower adults and help them to recover. So being just knowing they don't have to be alone. I can say for myself, every day is different. I mean, I could wake up depressed one day. I could, it really depends on what, every day is starting over. It's remembering my mission and my purpose in life. And I have to push through. So, I mean, some days I may be in tears, some days I'm going through, but I know that each day I'm starting over with the survivor process. So if you fall short, you're having a moment, you're not in a good space, it's okay. And you just got to push through, because I tell you right now, on this webinar, I don't look like what I've been through. That's for sure.
Amen.
It's rough, but I'm pushing through, and I'm grateful.
Amen. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Make sure you share your links with me in the page, the PSA that's about to come out.
Yes, tomorrow.
Make sure you share that.
Okay.
Definitely will share that with all my social media platforms. So before I end, those who are inspired to, start a nonprofit or start something similar to what you've done at Marion House, what things would you like to say to encourage them?
Don't be afraid. There are resources out there, and there's somebody that is willing to help. Money was my hindrance, and I was able over time to raise money. I'm thankful for, there's actually a place downtown. It's called Elliott Borough Mini Bar. They have supported Marion's House even before I was a 501c3. They couldn't write it off on their taxes, but they appreciated what I was doing, and they were willing to donate and to support the organization. So going out there and not being afraid to ask for help, because that's the start of everything I've done. Is the moment I sent the text message saying that I wanted to do the Darkness to Light training and ask for support. So not being afraid to ask.
Great. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, and best of luck, best of blessings, and I will talk to you soon.
All righty, bye.
Remember, guys, you have to dream big to win big. Make sure you go catch me on the Dreams Warriors Network page, because all the replays of all the beautiful women that came in the month of March, giving their best information, sharing their story, and leaving you some practical tips to live your best life and walk into your destiny. So, you have to dream big to win big. Bye.